I'm excited to introduce some special guests that are here with the Multifamily Mentor Matchmaking group. I'm going to let us start with Tara as the founder, as the visionary for this. I'm just so excited to welcome you here. First of all, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you for being part of the group. It's amazing.
I'm so excited. I just got matched and I had my first session. So I feel like I can speak a little bit more to it now. Can you share a little bit background? What sparked the idea to create this group in the first place?
Yeah, it's funny because I've told this story a few times, but there's always been this lingering idea of how can I almost like create like a match.com for mentorship in multifamily? Because I've been in multifamily for over 20 years and I've been fortunate to find a couple of mentors, not just in multifamily, but outside of multifamily. And I I really was like, I'm pretty outgoing, and I was outgoing enough to kind of ask these people to be my mentor, but I know there's so many people who struggle, and I just wanted to be that facilitator to break the ice, really. And for years and years, I honestly sat on it and thought, how can I claim to run something like this if I don't really have a playbook? Will people believe me? Are people going to think it's stupid? Will I be kind of laughed out of the industry? And really, what catapulted me to kind of press like the green light and press play and go was I put it out there on LinkedIn. I finally was like, okay, I'm going to make a leap. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to be vulnerable because vulnerability is something I'm always working on because I'm not very good at it. And I put it out on LinkedIn, and the first person who private messaged me and said, I got your back was Steve Halsey. And Steve is definitely, for people who've been in multifamily, he's a trailblazer, he's a legend, he's a supporter. But and he and I both worked for Amly, not together at the same time. But I thought, oh my gosh, if he thinks there's something to this idea, then maybe I'm onto something. And then the second person a couple weeks later was Dr. Debbie Phillips. And she was like, we were sitting at lunch in a restaurant, Blue Ridge Grill in Atlanta. And she just was like, girl, I got your back. Like, what do you need? I've got you. I think you're onto something. And I finally was like, okay, I just want 10 people to join. If 10 people join, then I can match up 5 and 5 and we're good. So that's the validation I needed. And I never even knew that January of last year when it launched, that it was actually like President Biden declared it like the mentorship month.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
there's something like National Mentorship Month or something like that. So the stars just aligned.
What serendipitous timing. That is incredible. I love
I
to
know.
hear that. And you got the backing, and did you get your 10 people to join? What where are you at right now? How are things going?
It's so funny because I baby steps because this is a one man show. It was until now, and I can get into that in a minute. But I have a 9 to 5. And so I knew that this wasn't something where I could just drop everything and run this during the day. This is my night and weekend side hustle. So, in order to make people feel welcome and that they have the personal attention, I was kind of glad for a while that it was organically just kind of growing like 10 people here, 10 people there. My goal for 2023 was to hit 300 people by the end of the year. We surpassed that early, and actually, one of my goals, Joe has been telling me we're going to get to 1,000, but I would like to at least get to 600. I would like to just double the number by the end of this year. We're almost at 400.
That's
Um, yeah, one of the most amazing things is within 30 days, at the start of this year, within 30 days, we had 70 people join.
That is so incredible, Tara. I have so many questions about how you've built community, but we have two very handsome guests here that are part of the community. So I don't want them just sitting here. We have to give them an introduction. So since they're part of your group, do you want to kind of shine the spotlight on our two guests?
Sure, absolutely. So it's kind of funny. We have a Joe and a Joseph.
I know.
So J squared.
So not
Um,
go. That means I'm in trouble, so I don't want that. So
So I'll start with Mr. Joe Summers because I married into multifamily. He knows my husband, Rob, really well, but he actually worked with my mother in law way back in the day, who's now retired from multifamily. So Joe and I have always like kind of been in the same circles. Actually interviewed with Joe in the past. Like we've just, you know, how this is an incestuous little industry. So he's just kind of been in my circle. I've always admired him. And he was one of the first people to join and also just say, like constantly, how can I help? And so I was really excited when he joined. And then Joseph and I, man, Joseph's the guy that's just going to always show up for you. He's like always positive, always a cheerleader. I have to look at the spreadsheet, but here's Joe and Joseph are both some of the original, the OGs of the mentor group. So they both just took a chance on me and took a chance on the group to say that they believed in this and they continue to show up. We now have a committee, and no surprise, both Joe and Joseph, how can I help? I want to be on the committee. So we've just launched that committee on Valentine's Day. So you're just looking at two guys in the industry who will help basically anybody any way they can. And I'm just lucky that I'm one of those people.
That's amazing. So, Tara, you and I are going to keep this conversation going, but I want to shine the spotlight on mentor mentee and how this relationship developed. I'd love to start with Joe because Joe, I hear your name in a lot of different circles, so I imagine you're busy like the rest of us. What inspired you to go ahead and say, "I'm willing to volunteer some of my time to become a mentor to somebody"?
First of all, thank you for having me
Thank
and
you.
calling me handsome. It's been a while. Uh, like I was originally attracted to the group. Tara and I, again, have crossed circles a lot. I've known her mother-in-law for 25 years and her husband for almost that long. And we've crossed paths. So when she mentioned the group in general, look, there's been tons of people that have tried things like this, including Tara and I were in a group together before this one actually, and they always fizzle out because there's no real, I don't want to use the word hook, but there's no real hook, right? Like it's people getting together. Great. It was all suppliers. What really attracted me to this was one, Tara's vision for it. It was put together the right way because it was meant to take some of us that are in denial about being old in the industry and pairing us with people that may have less experience or two people that have a lot of experience and they still need to learn from each other because I think what really drives people the four of us on this phone I can tell for sure is that we are eager to learn every single day and be better at what we do every single day. And so what attracted me is the mix of having suppliers and operators, no matter what your level of experience is. We have suppliers and operators that have months of experience, and we have suppliers and operators that, heck, I have 25 years and they put me to shame. So I think for me, it was appealing to be able to get back. And I think all of us that have that feeling sometimes, at least those of us that have been around a long time, have this feeling of giving back. So that's why I was so interested is I wanted to feel like that I was going to be able to learn from everybody every day. Tara is so organized with it. Actually, if you get rid of the tech like Zoom stuff that isn't even her fault, but she's so awesome about it and she's so organized. There are meet and greets every single week. So I think to survive and have something like this grow, you have to do something with it. And I think she's done a fantastic job of that. And quite honestly, I'll pass it off to Joseph. Joseph was my first mentee, which is kind of funny that it all works out. And now we're working together within the same org. So it's kind of interesting how things come full circle in this industry in general. It's the world's biggest high school, right? You guys have probably heard me say that. It is. So
That is so
And
that is so true. You know what's so interesting is when I think early on, Tara, you were starting, I had this urge to like get women together and to do a group, and I had a great turnout at my first thing. And then I realized the magnitude of keeping up with something like that. And I saw what you were doing, and I said, you know what? She is way better at this. I am happy to let her run with it. And every time I get the calendar invites and they see the Slack and all of this, I thought to myself, this is a job and you really have to have that level of passion, organization, and the ability to bring people together. So I think that's so cool. And I love hearing Joe that willingness, we're multifamily and sometimes we forget what that piece means, but to give back is just so cool. So I'd love to throw it to Joseph. Joseph, welcome. I feel like you and I got to know each other a lot better last year, and I know what a big-hearted person you are and how the energy that you bring to any situation. So, what was appealing to you about getting matched up with a mentor?
Thank you for having me, Barbara. This has been an amazing conversation so far. For me, what was most appealing was I had just transitioned over from the operations side to the supplier side and had been in that role for about 6-ish months, just trying to learn that side of the industry. I was so overwhelmed. As you all know, there's so much noise in that side of the industry. It's like who to follow, what tricks and tips you should do at trade shows and whatnot. So I was just looking for a place to learn from people that are industry vets, really, and had recently followed and connected with Tara, saw what she was doing was absolutely appealing to me. And she launched the group. I immediately said yes. And then once I was in, I just thought, wow, this is my opportunity to reach out to so many more people on a personal level, just to pick their brain and learn from the people that have done it before me, and then hopefully pay it back and have an impact on the future generations that are coming into our industry. So that's really how it all came to be. And just showing up, like Tara said, has opened up just a lot of really cool opportunities to get on this call today, be part of a committee that organizes her mentors and mentees joining the group. So, yeah, that's my story and what appealed to me.
That's really cool. I love hearing that. And I saw how supportive you were of just also even in the LinkedIn comments, like you were always cheering people on and kind of encouraging people to join. So I think that shows the collaborative spirit of this group, which is just like, hey, this is us uplifting each other. So I'm going to ping it back to Joe because I'm curious, everybody has their own style of mentorship. Could you kind of describe your approach of how you've, tackled mentorship? Like, are you really professional? Is there an agenda?
Uh,
Like, give me
how
your
honest are we
style.
being here, Barbara? Look, of course, I always say this when I record these things, and people that know me just kind of laugh at me because I'm a mantra type guy, and I believe in transparency, hardcore, and everything I do, I build on transparency, collaboration, and accountability. You know what I mean? If you're doing those three things right, you can never fail, right? And even when you make mistakes, you learn from them and you grow, right? And I'll just flat out say it, and Joseph can either, give any details he wants, but when he called me for advice or I gave him advice, I was very, very honest. And I was like, hey, don't do it. I'm glad you thought of that, but have you thought of X, Y, and Z? Here's how I think you should position that. Because Barbara, I think you could probably say this too, and I know Tara can. In my 25 years of experience, I've learned more about what not to do than what to do. And that is the benefit, right? Is saying, hey, I've been there, done that. You remind me a lot of when I was out there grinding hardcore. Think of this and that so you can shorten your learning cycle a little bit. Because I don't say fail fast, I say learn fast, right? Because like everything we do is about failure points. And it's funny, I just wrote a blog about resiliency for one of my clients, and it'll be hitting soon. But I try and be pretty raw and honest with myself and everyone. And my wife may disagree, but it works for me like 98% of the time, right? Like 2% of the time, like it's a bad thing that I open my mouth. But at least when I open my mouth, people know I'm genuine and honest, and I care, and I think that's the kind of style I take, because nobody wants a yes person as a mentor, right? Oh, you're amazing, Joseph. Your hair looks great today. Oh, love like, no, I'm like, no, like this is what you need to do if you truly want to get where you want to get.
That
So,
that's
I
awesome.
mean,
I love that, and Joseph, you're gonna give us the real deal in a minute, but I'm gonna stick with Joe for just a minute because I know we're on a time clock here. But first of all, if your wife ever asks, "Does this dress make me look fat?" That is when the raw honesty. You better be careful there.
been married a little over 20 years. Trust me, I'm
You're
definitely
learning?
Got it
of that.
mastered.
You've mastered. Okay,
Yeah,
good, good.
that is
No,
good.
I think that's so cool. So that I think first of all, 100% agree. You don't get a mentor to kind of have your ears tickled and everything said exactly how you want. It's like somebody that can reveal what you're not seeing, that you're maybe too close to, your blind spots. So, what about for you? Have you had a mentor that has been very impactful for you, Joe?
Oh my gosh. I believe in leveraging relationships, and I have had many actually. And look, I'm also, this may be controversial, Barbara, so I apologize, but I don't believe there should be a fence between suppliers and operators. We're all selling. They're selling to renters and we're selling to them to make it easier to sell to renters. So I've spent a lot of my career trying to break down those walls. I've had mentors on both sides of the fence. My very first boss in the industry in 1999 was Sherry Perna, or she's Sherry Raymond now. And she was a huge, my original mentor in the industry. She taught me the work ethic and to communicate and be transparent. And, I started in the industry when I was 23. So, and I'm 48. So like she taught me the foundations. But over the past several years, I would have to say it's Girish Kahani. If you guys know Girish at Trilogy Real Estate,
Love him.
he's him and his brother Neil own Trilogy. He's actually a couple years younger than me, but and like but he's like a big brother to me. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And he's on the operator side, and he's my go-to if I want to say, hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And no matter what he's doing, he will drop everything and have a conversation. So I'd have to say him for sure. But I'm also a believer in leaning. The most successful people surround themselves with people smarter than they are. And I'm a big believer in that. So, and I'm honored to be other people's mentors because I feel like we're all there with each other, kind of like a link, chain, links in the chain.
Absolutely. I think, I've heard it said before that we can condense decades into days when we have the right mentor. And I think that's so true that when you find somebody, especially in a pocket or a hole that you need really help with, finding somebody that's focused. So, Joe, for someone that wants to mentor others, I found myself in this position, but is feeling stretched in their own capacity. What would you say to somebody like that that does want to give back, doesn't know if they have the time?
Find the time. Yeah, and I don't mean to say that. I mean, look, when you're I have an 18-year-old, a senior in high school, and he plays varsity basketball and lacrosse. And I have a freshman in high school, and he plays varsity lacrosse. I made a commitment 7 years ago when I was living on the road, 5, 6 days a week, that I would never miss anything. And I have not missed one thing since then. But we all busy, right? There's no perfect time for anything in this life, but you'll never get an opportunity to impact someone else like you can by being involved. I mean, think about it this way. I'm almost 50. I'm not mentioning any other ages on this call, but we are aging out. And I'm sorry, but I'm seeing a lot of bad tendencies coming into the industry. And I think it's up to us to make sure in a kind way that we educate them on how to navigate successfully through this industry. It's not about pushing a button and sending an email to 1,000 people. It's about being thoughtful and caring more about someone than getting their business. You know what I mean? And one thing I tell every person is never be scared to walk away from business because that's not the main priority. And I don't think that exists a lot in the younger gen. There's a lot of young writers that want to get it done and be president of the company in, a year. And that's great. I love that. But to giving them the pathway to do it, that's more rewarding than almost anything else you can do. And you can find time. Like look, do I have time to be on the committee or co-chair of matchmaking group? Probably not, but I'll tell you what, I'm making the time because it's that valuable.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing all your experience today. So let me ask you, Joseph, on the other side of things. Okay, first of all, spill the secrets. How's Joe's mentor?
It works perfectly for me because I am the type that wants someone to give me the real honest feedback up front so I can learn and pivot from it. And in the short time that I've known Joe, when we started working together, he was upfront and honest. But I will say the first thing he said is, "You got a great head of hair. Anybody should hire you."
Hair was much longer and you had a big old beard too. So, it's all good. You're a lot more clean cut now.
Oh, so he got you in with a little flattery and then he cut you with what needed to happen. So, is there anything that you feel comfortable maybe sharing? You don't have to get super specific, but maybe a blind spot or something that maybe his leadership helped you to see how it's come out on the other side?
Yeah, I would say he helped me realize my value in the marketplace, in the multifamily marketplace, because as an on-site operator, I was stuck thinking I was only going to be in an operations role for the rest of my life. And coming over to the supplier side, I realized that operator experience is so valuable. So never discount yourself. And like I'm more valuable than I am allowing myself to believe. So he helped pull that out of me. So that way, I've just landed a freaking awesome role because of it. And through that process, I was able to really just understand my value and build my confidence from his mentorship.
I think that's so special when someone else can see something in you. And I always, my little phrase is I think that when you encourage somebody else, it's like you're adding your courage to that person and you're giving them that courage as an
Mhm.
encouragement. And a mentor can do that. I've had that happen for me so many times where I have a similar experience. I also know you had something recently. I don't know if you feel like sharing that kind of took you out of not just the work role, but into a personal role where you elevated and went into some things that were pretty special to you. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, would love to. Thank you. A few weeks ago, I got the opportunity to share about my story growing up in the foster system, being adopted by my grandparents, that impact it had on me growing up, and then reaching a pivotal time where I needed some help and reached out to an organization called Orangewood Foundation, where throughout the last like 10 years, I've been able to share my story, help share the mission for Orangewood Foundation, and also got me to step out of my comfort zone and get in front of about 300 people and present a speech on my experience in the foster system with the Orangewood Foundation and how they completely changed the trajectory of my life and really helped me become the hero I needed growing up. And that combined with the mentor group has just been like the craziest professional and personal growth period of my life.
Oh my goodness, being the hero that I needed growing up. Are you trying to make us all like you've been hitting us in the feels? That is so cool. And I talked to you the day before and I know how much it meant. And the feeling afterwards is just gotta be so cool. So Tara, you probably just are sitting there. This is just one of many experiences that has happened in your group. What does it feel like to hear? I know you've heard it before, but how does it make you feel hearing it again?
We celebrated the 1 year anniversary recently, and I was gonna try not to cry, but I cried because it is kind of like what Joe said. When you're passionate about something and you believe in others, you find the time. And so just looking at the two of them right here with this success story, they're one of many. I have sat back so many times because people are messaging me constantly with the words of, if you didn't start this group, fill in the blank, this would have never happened to me. We have people who have found new opportunities, new friendships, just new support. I had one of my missions lately is every time I see somebody out of work, I message them privately and I said, I have a network for you. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to find your new job, but I think that in these times, when you put that green banner on LinkedIn, it's a tough thing to have to do. You need support and you need community. Do not think that you have to have a job to join this group. It's open to everybody. So, my mission is to just make people feel supported. And that's what Joe and Joseph are doing with each other, but they're also doing it every time the two of them show up to a meet and greet call, even if they can only make it 10 minutes, they make it 10 minutes. And that is the modeling behavior that has allowed for others to just be like, oh my God, like this isn't like listen, I'm not a strict, rigid, formal person. These two can attest to that. I want people to just simply show up. And if you're feeling stuck and you don't feel supported, then this is the group you need. And even if it takes you, some people haven't found a mentor yet, and that's okay. And I've also told people who don't have the bandwidth, you know what, just join and join the calls. And if you can't be live to the calls, we record them. Joe, sometimes we've alluded, sometimes I've had some Zoom issues, but listen, you're going to get my personal attention and now you're going to get a committee. Joe and Joseph are two of the 15 who have stepped up and said, you know what, to Joe's point, he doesn't really have the time, but not only did he volunteer to be on the committee, but he's like, I'll be your co-chair. Like what? So like I sit back, I slap myself every night. Like, is this real? And I had, thank God, have a supportive husband because I can't tell you guys how much time I spend on this group nights and weekends. It's
Oh,
insane. It's like another job. but what fuels me is what's happening right here.
I mean, I'm inspired by this
That's what keeps me
conversation.
going.
I think this is so cool. I know you'd approached me about doing a mentorship last year, and I really just couldn't where I was at. And then this year you brought it up again, and it ended up just working out. And so I'm excited to, a lot of times we think like, I know for me, I'll just share kind of, I feel like I mentor a lot within my team. That's kind of my role.
Mhm.
But I'm seeing the value of mentoring someone outside of my team in a different role, in a different phase of their career. And so I'm excited about even the after I left my conversation with the person I'm visiting with is I left really excited and inspired with some of the ideas and some of the conversations. So I
Mhm.
think for people that think that they're only going to be giving, it's like it's a two-way street there. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, Joseph, now that you've experienced these benefits, how are you planning on? I know you do this in other ways, but how are you planning on embracing the mentor role? Is that something you're looking to do too?
Absolutely. Always open to it. In my experience with being a mentor, it's very short lived with the on-site operators because they got a lot going on too. They're switching roles and stuff. So I'm open to it all though. Always can learn from anybody. So I'm willing to be a mentee as well, not just a mentor.
That's so cool. I think that's a great learner's mindset. So, Tara, what is next for this community? You talked a little bit about the committees, like we've got a goal of 1,000. So, anybody that's listening to this podcast that is not a member, where do they need to go?
Right now, we're in the process. So one of our roadmap um, milestones, if you call it, is what one of our fellow members, Grady from Resi, he stepped up and said, "Let me help you create a mentor website." So we're going to take, you better believe Joe and Joseph are going to be front and center, and we're going to have a community online where it's going to be testimonials, stories, video. I have used video so much to connect with the folks in this group because I can't be in every state. This is a national group, although we don't have Alaska, Hawaii, and a couple other states,
All
but we're
right.
working on it. I want people to this is really about empowerment. So, what has morphed and what is going to continue as more and more of these meet and greet calls that we refer to are members stepping up and saying, I have something I want to teach the group. And so I've just wanted to continue to lay a foundation of empowerment. We have one tonight with Ronald Harrington. So reaching 600, but here's a couple of big milestones that I have like manifested. By 2026, we are going to have a mentorship conference exclusive to everybody that is in this industry. It is going to be a love fest. There's going to be tears. I guarantee you. I'll be sobbing the whole time. It's going to be testimonials. But at that conference, I'm going to give away a scholarship called the Mike Fine Scholarship. Mike Fine was my mentor for the last 27 years. He just passed away in December. And in his honor, I want to give away money to somebody and different recognitions for people to use to get to conferences in our industry or to use towards a credential that maybe they can't afford on their own or that maybe their company can't afford to send them. So that's coming. I would love if NAA and IREM, if you're listening, both of you,
Mhm.
I would love this group to be recognized for continuing education credits because we're teaching people are learning. They come away from this group learning something every time. And they're not learning it from me per se, it's from other members who are teaching things that are really important in our industry. I'm looking at my notes. What was the other thing I wanted to? I think those are like my big ones,
Those are
and
big.
they're going to happen. So, yeah.
Well, if you're like just getting 10 members to either 350, 400 is any indicator, I think the sky's the limit. And I think just seeing that the fact that the response has been so good, our industry's craving connection. I know they've said a lot of times that running alongside what was going on with the pandemic is also this loneliness epidemic. And I think this is bridging so many needs that everybody has. Guys, this has been so fun. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk forever. Did we miss anything? Is there anything anybody else wanted to share or say before we wrap up?
I do. I want to double down. I was going to say something earlier. I learn something new every single call I get on with this group, and so I love the fact that Tara just said it's a learning environment because it truly is. And if you're not waking up every morning wanting to do life better or to learn more, then you probably need to change careers. And and I will say this is definitely a group that it's not a waste of your time to be a part of. So if you are listening to this, join right away because it is an important group that you want to make sure you're a part of.
I think that's a great ad. Do we have an official like sign off? We need like a matchmaker group like gesture or something. We need something to wrap up
The
this.
triple M.
That's right. No, I'll make sure everybody that is reading this, there's always the show notes, there's a blog. So everybody check out the most up-to-date links and make sure to connect with Tara, Joseph, and Joe on LinkedIn. Also, they're all very active. And I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to do this. I know everybody's busy, but this has been a fun power chat.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
what an awesome
recognizing this
time.
group. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's Multifamily Mix. Keep shaking things up at your community, your career, and most importantly, your life. Until we mix and mingle again, see you next week, friend.